Congressman Michael McCaul, a Republican ranking member of the Foreign Affairs Committee and member of the Homeland Security Committee. Great to have you in focus today. Let's begin with your home state. The onslaught of people who are about to cross over, doubling, tripling, quadrupling the numbers we're already seeing. May 23rd. Your response to that?
And my response is, I mean, just when you think it couldn't get any worse, why in the world would you lift the Title 42 restriction at this point in time? They're projecting 500,000 people in the next 5 weeks coming across our border. I was a federal prosecutor down there for many years. I've never seen the border this bad. And when you talk to Border Patrol agents, the morale is awful. They're having a hard time recruiting, obviously. But what is coming in? That's the other thing. You know, we have people on the terrorist watch list. We have all these fentanyls coming in that are killing a younger generation. Enough seized at the border to kill the entire American population 7 times over. And then he's opening the floodgates even more after rescinding Remain in Mexico migrant protection protocols that I worked with the Trump administration to put in place. And now we have Biden's open border policy, which is an unmitigated disaster.
I want to just push in a little bit and make sure my notes were right. How many people did you say in 5 weeks?
They're talking about 500,000 people in the next 5 weeks. That would be 100,000 people per week coming in the country. We don't know who they are. And by the way, Harris, we're still putting masks on little kids, children at schools, but we're letting the floodgates in to people. We don't know who they are. We don't know what countries they're really coming from, and we're just letting them in.
Well, we do know that whatever they had in terms of COVID protection and vaccines and whatnot, they were not what we had in this country. We know we led the world with that. And we know that we're still clamping down on people in this country. Still, Dr. Fauci, well, maybe some of the restrictions will come back. I mean, are there any restrictions at the border? And speaking of which, it just boggles my mind, this part. A $10 billion COVID relief package is at risk of stalling, they say, if Republicans stand in the way over Title 42. But here's my question for you, Congressman. If COVID is so important, if that relief is so important in this country, why in the world would you get rid of something that protects us from COVID at the border? And the number that you just told us, 500,000 in 5 weeks, why would we even expose ourselves to that?
Yeah, precisely, Harris. I mean, you're talking about billions of dollars that they want us to spend on COVID relief when they're rescinding Title 42. What kind of COVID relief package is that?
I want to know.
That's unleashing COVID into the country by illegal populations that we don't even know anything about. I think that that causes a health problem for the United States. It causes a national security problem, a crime problem in MS-13, human trafficking event we've never seen anything like in our lifetimes. Where are these little girls and young males going to go? MS-13, sex trafficking. We can't absorb this type of illegal population in this country. You know, Harris, almost 3 million people have come in across our southern border since this president was elected.
Wow. All right, we'll move on to this. It is a dire situation and has been now for more than 40 days. Ukrainian President Zelensky warning the horrors of another town near the capital city, Kyiv, could be even worse than what we're seeing in Bucha. The town has been the site of widespread citizens being slaughtered in recent days after weeks of Russian occupation. Zelensky is calling on the United Nations to hold Russia accountable and to remove that country from its Security Council. And we saw our own U.S. ambassador to the UN asking about that, too, yesterday, pressing for it. But Fox News contributor Mark Thiessen is not optimistic. Let's watch together.
Genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes, whatever you want to call it. These are atrocities, and they are prosecutable. And the problem is that the UN is completely incapable of addressing these atrocities for one simple reason. 40% of its voting members are actively engaged in genocide and crimes against humanity. Congressman,
your reaction to that?
Well, Mark Thiessen's a very smart man. And China has this unholy alliance now with Mr. Putin, which gives them leverage at the United Nations. Today, my war crimes bill to hold Putin accountable will be debated on the House floor, and I think passed overwhelmingly, documenting the atrocities, including what happened in Bucha, which is absolutely, you know, the pictures, the horrific photos that I've seen and you've seen, people being basically hands tied behind them, their heads cut off. I mean, the maternity hospital. You go on and on and on. The war crimes are real. We're calling them out today in Congress that these are war crimes and Putin needs to be held accountable. The question is where and how do you do that? Zelensky has called for a Nuremberg-style trial, but we got to find a venue that is favorable to the Ukrainian people and a venue where we can get Putin. It'd be very hard to get him out of Russia.
And I don't know how this works, Congressman, but do you have to wait for any portion of this to at least become negotiable? Do you have to, maybe the war doesn't end, but how do you even get to that point? And how do you save as many lives as you can at this point without getting involved? That's the key. No World War III. Congressman McCaul, please come back. Great to have you in focus. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Harris. Thanks for having me.
President Obama reunited